Picture this. You walk into a courtroom. A judge is seated before you, robed in authority, with the full weight of the Nigerian legal system behind that bench. The room is silent, and then you open your mouth and confess. Not because someone forced you, not because evidence cornered you into a corner with no way out. You simply tell the truth. You admit out loud on the record that yes, you are a Boko Haram terrorist. You moved weapons, you provided support, you helped keep one of the most dangerous insurgent groups in African history alive and operational. The judge looks at you and says, 60 years. That is not a movie scene. That is what happened in Abuja this week. And if you think that story ends there, stay with me, because what followed is even more extraordinary. On April 9th, 2026, the Federal High Court in Abuja convicted 11 Boko Haram members and handed down prison sentences ranging from 40 to 60 years. The judge presiding over the case was Justice Obiora Igwatu, and the charges brought under the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act were as serious as they come. Membership of a proscribed terrorist organization, providing material and logistical support, transporting weapons to active Boko Haram members, and receiving training in weapons handling. The 11 convicts are Musa Mustafa, Ali Mohammed, Babagana Ali, Abacha Abba, Ali Abagana Umar, Kagi Agwala, Yaya Umara, Alhaji Ari, Goni Mustafa, Ali Modu, and Alhaji Fanaya. These are real people from real communities across northeastern Nigeria who made choices that will now cost them the remainder of their most productive years behind prison walls. Now, if you are enjoying this story already, please tap that like button right now. It takes 1 second and it genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need to hear stories like this one. And if you are not yet subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and join this community. Now, let us get back to the story because it gets deeper. What makes this case especially compelling is the way justice was delivered. These men confessed voluntarily in open court, and Justice Igwatu made a critical legal point during sentencing. Under Nigerian law, a court does not need the prosecution to present mountains of additional evidence when a defendant stands in open court and admits guilt. The confession, both in court and in extrajudicial statements made to investigators, is sufficient grounds for conviction. The law is precise on this. When you admit what you did, the court can act immediately. Each defendant faced multiple counts, with sentences of 20 years applied per count and structured to run concurrently. Take Alhaji Fanaya from Bama local government area in Borno State. He pled guilty to 4 out of 5 charges. That's 4 counts at 20 years each. Abacha Abba from Dikwa, Borno State admitted to physically transporting weapons to Boko Haram fighters and receiving weapons training himself. 3 counts. Kadi Agwala and Ali Babagana Umar both faced 2 counts each for rendering direct support to the terrorist network. Every single one of them sentenced. And here is something worth noting. Justice Igwatu did not simply lock these men away and throw away the key. He ordered that upon completing their sentences, each convict must undergo rehabilitation and de-radicalization. That order tells you something important about how the Nigerian judiciary is thinking about this problem. The courtroom is not just a place of punishment. It is, in this case, the beginning of a longer process of dismantling the ideology that created these men in the first place. But these 11 men are not alone. They are part of something much larger. The Attorney General of the Federation has brought over 500 individuals before various federal high courts across Nigeria in recent weeks, all charged with aiding and abetting terrorism. This is not a coincidence. This is a coordinated, deliberate legal campaign, and the courts have been extraordinarily busy.
Just days before this verdict, a food supplier named Hamatu Modu was sentenced to 40 years in Abuja for keeping Boko Haram fed. A father of 3 named Shehu Buka received 20 years for selling goats to Boko Haram in Borno State. Yes, goats. And a 40-year-old father of 6 named Hamza Yauza was handed 7 years in prison for selling Indian hemp and cigarettes to terrorists in Monguno local government area of Borno. He stood in court and pleaded for mercy. He told the judge that poverty had driven him to it. Justice Binta Fatima Nyako looked at him and made it plain. The law does not measure your guilt by the size of your transaction. If you supplied the enemy, you are complicit. 7 years. These cases collectively send one message loud and clear. There is no such thing as a small role in terrorism. Whether you moved weapons, sold groceries, or handed over a packet of cigarettes, if you knowingly aided Boko Haram, the Nigerian judiciary is coming for you. Now, while you are still here, please remember to share this video with at least one person today. This is the kind of news Nigerians everywhere deserve to know about. Whether you are watching from Lagos, Abuja, Kano, London, or Toronto, share it. The story is not done yet. Because perhaps the most emotionally gripping case from this entire wave of prosecutions involves a man named Ali Kolo, and his story will stop you in your tracks. Ali Kolo was not a Boko Haram member. He was a victim. Boko Haram terrorists shot him in the right leg with an AK-47. His leg was shattered. He was wounded, hospitalized, and in extraordinary pain. The Nigerian government, however, charged him with failing to report terrorist activity to security forces, a violation of the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act. Here is what Ali Kolo told the court. He was actually on his way to report the terrorists to the military when they shot him. His journey to do the right thing was ended by a bullet. He never made it to the military checkpoint. He ended up in a hospital instead. And then he ended up in detention for over 10 years awaiting trial. Justice Peter Odolifu of the Federal High Court had this case and sentenced Kolo to 9 years imprisonment. But then the judge did something remarkable. He ordered that the sentence begin from the date of Kolo's arrest in 2017. By that calculation, Kolo had already served more than a decade in detention, longer than the sentence itself. Justice Lifu declared that keeping him in prison any further would constitute double jeopardy and ordered his immediate release. That case should sit with all of us. Here is a man who was shot by terrorists while trying to report them, spent 10 years in detention, and only this week walked free. It raises serious questions about the treatment of civilian witnesses and ordinary people caught between an insurgency and a state apparatus that demands information even from those who are themselves targets of violence. And alongside that case, a bricklayer named Ibrahim Buka from Borno State was sentenced to 10 years. He admitted he recognized 2 Boko Haram members in his community and chose to flee to Onitsha rather than alert the military. He ran for his life, which is entirely understandable, but the court found that his silence aided the enemy. 10 years, starting from the date of his arrest in 2023. So, what does all this mean for Nigeria? Why should you, whether a student, a professional, a parent, or a retiree, care about what is happening in those Abuja courtrooms right now? Because for nearly 18 years, Boko Haram sustained itself not just through ideology and violence, but through supply chains, through the quiet complicity of people who looked the other way, who told themselves they were just doing business, just surviving, just staying out of trouble. Every goat sold, every meal delivered, every weapon transported, every piece of information withheld, each of those acts, no matter how small it seemed in isolation, kept a terror network breathing. The Nigerian judiciary is now systematically dismantling that support network, one confession, one conviction, one sentence at a time. And the speed with which these cases are being resolved, driven largely by open court confessions, shows that the system, when it functions as designed, is capable of delivering justice without years of delay. This is what accountability looks like. This is what it means when a country says, we will find you, we will charge you, and we will sentence you, whether you carried a gun or carried a bag of groceries. Nigeria has seen dark chapters in this fight. There have been setbacks, scandals, and moments that many of us questioned whether justice was even possible. But this week, in a federal high court in Abuja, 11 men told the truth, and the law answered with absolute clarity. That is not a small victory. That is the Nigerian justice system working. And we should name it, celebrate it, and demand more of it. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you. Genuinely. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think these sentences are fair? Is rehabilitation realistic for people convicted of terrorism? Should civilians who fail to report